What's up guys, it's Zach Heidi, and today I'm talking about a cue I just recently finished called Pass the Panda. This cue was actually written for a toy commercial. It was a blast to do. It's just gonna be a very brief overview of the cue itself, kind of what went into the thought process behind making it, and then the ultimate mix and master of the cue. If you enjoyed, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Let's go right into it. All right, so here's the full 60-second track. As you can see, it's not too intense. We've probably got about 20 tracks here, 20 or 30 at most, but that's partially by design. This track was intended to be for a kid's toy commercial. So the focus was on things that are simple but effective, nothing too dramatic or epic sounding. You'll notice that in the string patches, they're all just full string patches. No micro orchestrations of individual sections. It's just not necessary for something like this. The brief I received was that they were looking for something that sort of felt jungly, but they were also sending me references like Mozart as well as Flight of the Bumblebee. So I had a lot of different ideas to work with, and what I ultimately decided to do was kind of represent the jungle with kind of a jazz swing groove, like sing, 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 and then combining that with more chromatic stuff to represent Flight of the Bumblebee, and then having some kind of more like children-like jungly percussion and pitched percussion. You could think like some of the Nintendo jungle music from like Donkey Kong and stuff like that. So let's play it through and then I'll just give a brief overview of how I wrote this. Short, sweet, and to the point. You know, nothing too stylistically crazy. You don't want to flex too many compositional muscles here because, like I said, ultimately it's a kids commercial. So you want it to feel very approachable, kind of sing-songy. Now this is not the full mix. I'll show you the full mix in a second. This is what I typically do. I'll work in MIDI here, and then once I'm happy with that, bounce out the stems, and then do a final mix down to the stems before I send it to the client. So let's just go through some of the sections here. Particularly, let's start with like the Asian kits. This is really what started the cue, was this little beginning here. That kit just had lots of kind of goofy sounding wood blocks, cymbals, things like that. And I just thought it'd be a nice bed to start with, so. Just setting up a basic groove here. Then we have a texture change. Etc. Got some comedic stuff like the snare rolls and stuff, just kind of accentuate some of the melodic lines that are going on. Then right down the line, we've got kind of the main bed. Well, actually first we've got the timpanis here. And the timpanis are a blend between Logic's timpanis and some more orchestral timpanis. I like Logic's actually, even though they're a little less realistic, they're very close mic'd. And so that kind of close sound is what I wanted for this kind of track. Kind of adds to the jungly feel. They are being doubled by some of the lower strings, which I'll get to in a second. Then we've got the pitched percussion, kind of the main bed of this whole track. Very active, lots of chromatic lines that are originally in the strings, obviously taking some of the melody. I'll play this all the way through here, most of the way. So there's lots of syncopation that's going on that basically just helps it feel like it's got this constant momentum. There's two marimbas. I believe there might even be two kalimbas here. And again, I like to stereo pan those kinds of things and have them doing slightly different rhythms, just because mostly it adds this syncopated element and therefore it feels very active and has movement. Got the goofy rolls. So almost the entirety of the piece is represented through this pitch percussion. Again, mostly by design. Initially, my original pass had mostly strings, but talking to the clients, they thought it sounded a little bit too like epic and grandiose, so we wanted to tone it back a little bit. Speaking of which, let's move over to the strings. Strings are mixed pretty quietly in this, again, because of the client's requests, but you'll see they're kind of carrying a lot of the bass bed that's being dulled by the timpani. Pretty basic programming, nothing too crazy. Very dry to not make it feel too large. That's the basic idea. You'll hear them in context now. I'll play it with the timpani so you can really hear how they interact. And then with the pitch percussion so you can hear that all together. Filling in the space of the pizzicato strings. Etc. And then lastly, we've basically got kind of the jazz ensemble here. We've got the jazz drum grooves, the ride. I like to have the jazz drum grooves and the ride in two separate channels, just because I find it easier to mix. I like the ride to be very crisp and sharp, and I like the kick, obviously, to have a little bit more punch to it. And then we've got the round one bass from Orchestral, that is an electric bass that I use to kind of support the strings on the bottom end. So here's just the drums and bass. Here's with the strings. And with the pitch percussion. And everything all together. So you hear how they interact with each other. Again, it's nothing too crazy, but it's just trying to fill in the space where needed, doubling things to push them forward a little bit, having the spaces of the melody filled in by percussion in some ways or other little lines, those sorts of things. So once this was approved, I'll then now show you the next step of my process, which was the final mix. These are all bounced out into stems that make sense for the music editor. In this case, it's my buddy Jags Knee who threw this project my way. And this is what that looks like. Obviously, you can see it's a lot cleaner looking. There's only 4 tracks, percussion, pitch percussion, strings, timpani. Now I separated out the timpani because the timpani was relatively prominent, and just in case they wanted to make that a little louder or make that quieter, they could do so. That's kind of the way I operate with stems. You want to really think about the needs of the client and or the music editor. This was expected to have narration over it, and so it's very important that they have the opportunity to mix like this. If they don't, they may just mix the music all the way down just to compensate, and then you're kind of screwed because you lose all that work that you did. So here's what the final mix sounds like. Nothing crazy on each of these tracks, mostly just EQ, a little compression, and then a limiter at the end of the whole thing just to pump the volume up. And there you have it. That's how I approach this cue for Pass the Pandas. It was a lot of fun. I'll share the video when I've got it. I want to give a huge thanks to John Jags Knee for throwing this project my way. And if you're interested in these kinds of breakdown videos, Jags did an awesome breakdown of his process on a different game called Jurassic Snack. I'll link that in the description below. Let me know if you have any other questions about this project or others. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more content, and I will see you in the next video.